March 6, 1974, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. The bread is rising on the counter. Flour is dusted across the kitchen floor. A pizza sits on the table, one slice missing. And somewhere between 9 and 9:30 that night, Ellabeth Lodermeier simply stops existing. Her car is in the driveway. Her coat and purse are gone. Nothing else is missing. On the surface, this looks like a woman who walked out of her own life, and someone wanted you to believe exactly that. But this case involves a failed polygraph, evidence planted nearly 600 miles away, a pipe bomb, and a man accused of ordering hits on the detectives investigating him. Before we go further, if you're here for true crime that focuses on investigation, psychology, and the cases that fall through the cracks of the justice system, hit subscribe. Ellabeth May Keller was born in Billings, Montana in 1948. She eventually settled in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, earned a degree in social work, and built a career helping people navigate systems that weren't designed for them. By early 1974, her life was finally moving in the right direction. She had left her husband, Gene Lodermeier, and filed for divorce. Court filings described years of physical and psychological abuse. Gene had beaten her, controlled her movements, and at times disabled her car to stop her from attending college classes. She had confided to a friend that she was terrified of him. But she was moving forward, and so she got a new boyfriend, Jerry Thomas. They were looking at a house together and even talked about the future. The divorce trial was scheduled for March 27, 1974. 3 weeks away. She never made it. The evening of March 6th, Jerry Thomas was out of town on that day, but before he left, they had agreed he would call between 9 and 9:30 p.m. So he called 3 times. Each time, the upstairs tenant answered. Ellabeth never came to get the phone. The next morning, Ellabeth didn't show up to work. Coworkers called, but nobody answered. They contacted Gene Lodermeier, her estranged husband. Together, they went to her home on North Indiana Avenue. What they found was unsettling in a very precise way. Bread was rising on the counter, flour on the floor, a pizza on the table with one piece gone. Her car was outside, but the house was completely locked. The only things missing were her coat and her purse. She was reported missing that same day, March 7, 1974. The person who filed the report was Gene Lodermeier. Jerry Thomas, her boyfriend, drove back to Sioux Falls the moment he heard. He walked into the police station, volunteered for a polygraph, and passed. He was eliminated as a suspect almost immediately. But Gene Lodermeier was not. Investigators gave Gene a lie detector test. Detective Pat Mertz later described the results plainly, an indication of deception. But there was no body, no murder weapon. The state's attorney's office reviewed the evidence and concluded it wasn't enough to charge him. So Gene Lodermeier walked out a free man. And he stayed free. 6 months later, September 20, 1974, a discovery was made inside a women's bathroom at a railway station in Dauphin, Manitoba, Canada, nearly 600 miles north of Sioux Falls. Ellabeth's credit cards were found there. Investigators traveled there. They searched, looked for any trace of her. But there was still nothing. No hotel records, no sightings. No connection of any kind between Ellabeth and that town. Investigators later concluded the cards had almost certainly been planted, left there deliberately to redirect the investigation northward. Someone drove 600 miles to throw this case off course. Think about what that requires. That is not the behavior of someone with nothing to hide. Gene Lodermeier did not disappear quietly into the background. In 1977, he was accused of placing a pipe bomb in a police officer's car. The charges never made it to court. In 1989, he was convicted on multiple counts of grand theft and sentenced to 45 years in prison. His bail was set at $1 million cash because a judge considered him a direct danger to two detectives who had been investigating him. He was also accused of attempting to hire a hitman. The targets allegedly included those same two detectives and the presiding judge. Those charges were eventually dropped, but the accusation was on record, and it told investigators something they had long suspected about the kind of man Gene Lodermeier was. April 26, 1992. A wallet surfaces along the bank of the Big Sioux River east of Sioux Falls, near Highway 42. Inside was Ellabeth Lodermeier's checkbook and credit cards. 18 years after she disappeared, less than 10 miles from where she was last seen. Police searched the river. They found nothing else. But the wallet confirmed what the Manitoba credit cards had already suggested. Someone had been holding on to her belongings, and they had chosen when and where to let them go. Gene Lodermeier served 13 years of his 45-year sentence. He was paroled in 2002. By then, he was already in deteriorating health, an aortic aneurysm which caused him back problems. Investigators never stopped watching him. He never remarried. He never spoke publicly about Ellabeth either. And then, on April 18, 2013, Gene Lodermeier died at home. He was 66 years old. And with him went whatever he knew. There was no deathbed confession, no letter, no tip passed along from a family member. Nothing. The Sioux Falls Police Department still lists Gene Lodermeier as a person of interest in Ellabeth's disappearance, present tense, even after his death. That is a deliberate choice of language. It means investigators have not closed the door on his involvement. It means they believe, to this day, that the answer to this case likely died with him. But here is the part that genuinely unsettles people who study this case closely. The planted credit cards in Manitoba, the wallet surfacing 18 years later in a river, the failed polygraph, the pipe bomb, the alleged hitman. None of that is the behavior of an innocent man watching his ex-wife's case unfold from the outside. That is the behavior of someone managing a secret, actively, and for decades. Ellabeth Lodermeier would be 76 years old today. She never made it to her divorce trial, and she never got to move into that house with Jerry Thomas. She never got to use the career she had built, helping people caught in systems that weren't designed to protect them, or to even build the life she had planned. There is something that needs to be said plainly about this case. In 1974, a woman who had testified under oath about abuse, who had told a friend she was afraid of her husband, disappeared 3 weeks before a divorce trial. Her estranged husband failed a polygraph, and he was never charged, because there was no body. That standard, no body, no case, is not unique to Ellabeth's story. It is a wall that investigators in domestic homicide cases have run into for decades. In 2015, Detective Pat Mertz took over the cold case. In 2018, after a local newspaper ran a retrospective, 5 new tips came in, 3 described as containing brand new information. In 2019, cadaver dogs searched 6 acres along the Big Sioux River. Police noted areas of interest.
no announcement followed. In March 2024, on the 50th anniversary of her disappearance, the Sioux Falls Police Department renewed its public call for information. The case remains open. Ellabeth's brother is still alive, and Jerry Thomas is still alive as well. They have waited 50 years for an answer. If you know anything about what happened to Ellabeth Lodermeier, the Sioux Falls Police Department is still looking. Anonymous tips can be submitted through Crime Stoppers Sioux Empire. She deserves to be found. 50 years is long enough.
If this story stayed with you, share it. Not for the views, not for the algorithm, but because Ellabeth Lodermeier deserves to be found. And the more people who know her name, the better the chance that someone, somewhere, finally speaks. Subscribe if you want more cases like this, investigations that matter, told with respect, and focused on the truth.